1. It is 3 in the morning. The entire house is completely silent. You are lying in bed, staring blankly at the dark ceiling. You are not suffering from physical insomnia. Your body is totally exhausted. But your brain has just decided to forcefully hit play on a mental movie you never asked to watch. It might be that slightly awkward joke you made in the morning meeting that nobody laughed at. Or even worse, a completely random conversation from 3 whole years ago that suddenly returns to haunt you. You twist and turn in the dark, torturing yourself with the exact same thoughts. You whisper to yourself, "If only I had said that one specific line, I would have looked so much cooler." Or, "Oh my God, why did I actually let those stupid words come out of my mouth?" But here is the real, chilling mystery. That event is long gone. The other person probably forgot about it 5 minutes later. So why on earth is your brain locking you in this psychological prison, forcing you to rehearse a finished scene hundreds of times? The truth is, you are not just an anxious overthinker. What you are experiencing right now is a highly guarded, secret defense mechanism rooted deep inside your mind. And today, we are going to expose exactly what it is trying to protect you from. 2. Now, society loves to throw around a simple label for this. Your friends or family might tell you that you are just a chronic overthinker. They might say you lack self-confidence, or maybe that you just have way too much free time on your hands, making yourself miserable for absolutely no reason. But science tells a completely different and much deeper story. You are not just overthinking. You are experiencing a psychological phenomenon known as rumination. The late Dr. Susan Nolan Hoeksema from Yale University spent her life studying this exact behavior. She discovered that rumination is not active problem solving. It is your brain getting stuck in a passive, endless loop of analysis, desperately trying to find a perfect answer where there is none. But why does the brain get stuck on that specific moment in the first place? To understand that, we have to look at a fascinating concept called the Zeigarnik effect. Cognitive psychologists found that the human brain is heavily hardwired to remember unfinished tasks twice as well as completed ones. When you have a conversation that feels slightly off, a joke that falls totally flat, or an interaction where you did not get to say your piece, your mind registers it as a massive, unresolved open tab. That awkward silence is not just a passing memory to your brain. It is an unfinished task demanding immediate attention, keeping you awake when you should be resting. Understanding this mechanical trap of the mind is the essential first step toward true self-liberation. 3. So, how does this unfinished mental task actually play out inside your head? Imagine a guy named Min. This morning, right in the middle of a crucial heavy team meeting, Min made a joke. It was a joke that landed with a deafening, incredibly awkward silence. The meeting eventually moved on. Nobody brought it up again. People went back to their desks, went home, and completely forgot about the entire interaction. But for Min, the day is far from over. As midnight approaches, Min walks into the dark editing room of his own mind. He sits in the director chair. He hits rewind. He watches the exact same scene play out again and again. He zooms in on the slight, momentary frown of his manager. He slows down the awkward shifting of his coworker in the seat next to him. Then, he starts desperately writing an alternative script. What if I had just nodded instead? What if I had stayed completely silent and looked professional? He cuts, pastes, and forcefully edits the timeline, trying to manufacture a fictional version of reality where he does not have to feel this crushing sense of embarrassment. But here is the most painful truth about what Min is doing. He is no longer watching the real event. Over a century ago, a sociologist named Charles Cooley introduced a profound concept called the looking glass self. Cooley suggested that our core identity in social settings is not built on who we actually are, or even what other people actually think of us. Instead, our identity is built on what we think other people think of us. Let me say that again. It is based entirely on what we assume they are thinking. Min is staring right into this psychological looking glass. He is simply projecting his own deepest, darkest insecurities onto the blank faces of his colleagues. He is convincing himself that they view him as foolish, awkward, or incompetent, simply because that is his own underlying fear about himself. And this leads us to the ultimate, tragic paradox of rumination. You tell yourself that by replaying the conversation, you are learning a valuable lesson. You deeply believe that you are finding a logical solution, so you will never make the exact same mistake twice. You think it gives you control, but in reality, you are falling victim to severe memory distortion. Human memory is not a computer hard drive. Every single time you recall an event, your brain actively rewrites it. And when you recall a memory through the heavy lens of anxiety, shame, and self-doubt, the memory gets darker, worse, and significantly more humiliating every single time you hit play. You are not solving a problem. You are just taking a magnifying glass to your own perceived flaws, blowing them up until they consume your entire sense of self-worth, trapping you in a cycle of your own creation. 4. But if this mental editing room is so painful, why does your brain force you to stay inside it? The answer goes far beyond modern psychology. It goes back thousands of years. It is deeply rooted in our evolutionary biology. Long before office meetings or group chats, our ancestors lived in small, tightly knit tribes. Back then, belonging to the group was not just about feeling accepted or being popular. It was literally a matter of life and death. If you made a social mistake, if you offended the wrong person, or if you acted completely out of line, you risked being ostracized. And thousands of years ago, being cast out of the tribe meant you would not survive the winter. You would die alone. Fast forward to today. We live in a world of comfortable offices, classrooms, and smartphones. We are constantly connected to a massive, hyper-visible digital tribe through social media. But here is the absolute catch. Your brain has not updated its survival software. Deep inside your brain is a tiny, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It acts as your ultimate survival alarm system. But the amygdala has one major, fundamental flaw. It cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and a social threat. To your primitive brain, a hungry predator chasing you feels exactly the same as the judging, silent eyes of your coworkers. When you obsessively replay that awkward conversation in your bed at 3 a.m, your amygdala is not actually trying to torture you. It is desperately trying to save your life. It is frantically scanning that past interaction for hidden social threats, trying to make absolutely sure you are not about to be kicked out of your modern tribe. Your brain is treating a slightly weird joke like a life or death emergency. It is an ancient survival instinct, completely misfiring in the modern world. 5. Now, let us be perfectly clear. Looking back at your past actions is not always a bad thing. Healthy self-reflection is a beautiful, necessary tool. It is exactly how we grow, learn from our mistakes, and become much more refined and empathetic in how we communicate with others. But there is a massive, dangerous line between self-reflection and rumination. When this ancient survival instinct takes over completely, Your protective shield quickly turns into a psychological prison. It paralyzes you. It steals your precious sleep and slowly, quietly erodes your core self-esteem. And worst of all, it makes you terrified of stepping out into the world. You start avoiding new social interactions, shrinking your life down to a safe, quiet bubble. Not because you do not want to connect with people, but because you are absolutely terrified of making another mistake. You become scared of giving your mind more material to torture you with on the very next sleepless night. 6. So, how do we finally break free from this cycle? It begins with a massive, fundamental shift in how you view your own thoughts. Silencing this endless loop of rumination is not just a quick trick to help you fall asleep. It is an act of profound self-liberation. You have to realize that your mind is not a harsh, unforgiving courtroom, and you are under absolutely no obligation to stand there, night after night, acting as the desperate defense attorney for your past social mistakes. True emotional freedom does not come from finally figuring out the perfect, witty comeback 3 years too late. Freedom comes from shattering that psychological looking glass entirely. It is the quiet, beautiful acceptance that being awkward, stumbling over your words, and making slightly foolish mistakes is just a completely normal, unavoidable part of being human. Imagine your mind as a wide, deeply flowing river. Those awkward memories, those silly little missteps you made yesterday, they are not heavy boulders permanently blocking the water. They are simply dry, fragile leaves falling from a tree. When a leaf drops onto the water, you do not need to dive in and aggressively try to catch it. You just need to stand peacefully on the bank, watch it gently touch the surface, and let the natural current carry it far away. 7. If you have ever found yourself staring at the ceiling during one of these sleepless nights, please know you are not alone. Leave a comment below and share your story. This space is a safe place to let those leaves go. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to continue this journey of self-liberation with us. Next, I highly recommend watching our deep dive into the psychological roots of our darkest fears. I will see you there.